The main thing I want to do with this 3D thing is just make sure you understand the tool. It's another thing if you want to go down the rabbit hole with it. There's a lot of parameters around it. I think just the basic idea of it is what I need to show you guys. Again, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, you can. Okay, so you made some geometry in here, different brush edges, correct?
Yeah, I wanted to get a better angle, and I was trying to mess around with the orbit and the pan and it's a lot different than the other 3D programs that I use.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's, well, what it is it's like, I don't even know how it works really. It's, it's an extrusion thing really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to be nearly as in-depth as all that is. Although you can, I was just looking at a thing and maybe I'll link that to it because I think it was a video. It was a guy who he imported a 3D file into Illustrator, and then he was lighting it. It was like a head, a face or whatever, a bust. That was kind of interesting, and he'd gone over to this free site and pulled in the model from the free site. It was kind of interesting. Like, I haven't seen people doing that. And I'm sure the thing that's interesting about these things is I look at it and I go, oh, it's really good for doing this quick organic stuff. And then if you go check it out, then you'll find people who are doing insane things with these tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Okay, so let's look at this real quick. So the way I usually do this, and hopefully it's going to light it correctly. And by the way, let's do this. Let's see if I can do the cylinder here. Nope, I'm getting that stupid bad lighting again. See, let me try something here. There was some way to solve this lighting thing, and I can't remember what it was. One of the things I looked up online, but I still haven't been able to find exactly where the controls are for it. That's supposed to fix it, so I'll figure that out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this is what I was trying to do for the cylinder thing, right? And what I was saying with it was it would be a really nice sort of interior cave column or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But as far as moving it around, I always just use this kind of general thing this way. And there's a command in here, which I just saw in the window, if it matters, where you can ground it. You can tell it to ground it to the ground plane. Yeah?
Where is that one?
It's, let me find it because I just landed on it. Where's my 3D window? It's showing it's already open, which it's not. Yeah, I'm having a lot of weird problems lately. It's weird, it's not showing my 3D window. Okay, that's weird. By the way, it has 3D print settings here too. I've never even looked into that. I want to talk to Frank about that because he teaches that. Move object to ground plane right there. You see it?
Yeah, can you demonstrate it?
Let's see if I can pull this up.
Like, I wonder if it just, yeah, you can just like spin around it now.
Yeah, if I go here. Okay, right now it is grounded. Let's see if I can unground it. Of course, now it's grounded to the ground plane. All it is if it's, because I had something yesterday, it was floating. And I just did that command. It just goes bink and it throws it down onto the ground plane. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right now it's already grounded. So, and I'm not that familiar with this tool really. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does
Another
it,
thing
go
I
ahead.
couldn't figure out was like if I wanted to, once I made it like the 3D object, if I wanted to go back and edit it, I don't know how to go back and then come back again.
That's a new one on me. I don't really edit these things, to be honest.
Okay.
I usually just use it to throw down a quick environment thing. That's usually all I need, because what I'm always doing is I'm throwing something down to paint over it and to manipulate it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I use it. Now, it'd be interesting. I'm probably going to do this because I'm actually interested, probably because I've got 2 architects, I think, in here. I want to look at that. I want to see how far you can go with that sort of geometry and how much I can edit it. So once I go down that a little bit, I'll bring it back into the class if you want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Because it might be like, I'm pretty sure I know you can. I think you can export out of your CAD programs into here. So maybe you could build the simple or the simple organic shapes around it. There's probably a lot of things you can do back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the CAD programs, I know they've gotten a lot better. Like I remember over Imagineering, I would give them, and this is a long time ago, it's 20 years ago, but I would give them my designs for something, and then I would get back, and then they would go to this department called ShowSet, and ShowSet is the ones who make it really workable and create the CAD drawings and all that stuff. And then I would get the stuff back, and it was just really just because it was limitations of the CAD modeling or the CAD programs. It took all the personality out of everything. You know what I mean? So what I would do is I would put a piece of trace over the CAD drawings, and I'd redraw in all the sort of designy, flourishy, stuff on how it's supposed to look, because it, and I know that's gotten a lot better now. Now they could probably completely 3D model it in like Fusion 360 and hand that right over to the manufacturer, the vendor, and they could build from it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, CAD has its perks too. I think it's more precise.
Oh yeah, totally.
Elegant in a way.
It's way more precise. But now, okay, so how CAD used to work? Because I started learning CAD a long time ago, and then I was like, I don't need to learn this. I did, but I didn't. It used to be SolidWorks, and this was also 15 years ago or whatever it was. I don't know how long ago it was. I should learn that, and I should have, but it was a nightmare to use it. It was just like not intuitive at all. It was very much more from an engineer's perspective. And then now they've gotten it better, where it's more, and I've said this before, it's changed. Like when I was running like design teams, like toy design or whatever, you would pretty quickly marry the design to a product engineer, right? Whereas now the designer, and then, I not too long ago, a couple of years ago, whatever it was, I did a job over for, the people do Tonka and, a bunch of other toy stuff. And their operation, it's much more how it is now, where the designers were holding on to the design almost to the end, because they were going into whatever they were using, Fusion 360, whatever they're using, where it's like they're modeling in real time. And then Fusion 360 is pushing in all the CAD information, but they're sort of working from a visual perspective the way designers do. But at the same time, they know certain things about manufacturing and all that stuff. So they're building a good looking model at the same time they're putting all the CAD information. At the same time, that software can also tell you safety problems, breaking points, how much pressure it's going to take to break this thing, where the problem areas are. I can put a flange in there. That's where I think the screws are. It's like when I was doing that, and one example is I might have said this in here, is at Disney, when we went over to Hong Kong to look at the product, because you go over there to look at it in process, and it was Ratatouille. It was one of the characters, and they just did weird things like they put the screw hole right in the behind. You know what I mean? And you're going, really, you guys? Like, you put the screw hole there? I mean, come on. So then you have to come up with solutions and all that. But if the designer is holding on to that product pretty much all the way to the end, that you don't have those problems. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And the manufacturer, the stuff they're probably going to, and also they can cut the tool straight from that file. You know, they can make the mold, because you can even test that. You can go, what's the mold look like for this, or design it or whatever. And then, a lot of times with budget, and the reason I'm talking about this is everything has parameters. With a budget, you go, I can only do a 2-part mold. Okay. I can't do a complex mold, 3-part mold, 2 molds. I can't do that. I got to gang mold it, or I've got to have a 2-part mold. Top, bottom draw, side to side draw, whatever it is. And then this thing will start to tell you if you got any undercuts. If you have any undercuts in a mold, it won't pull. It can't release, right? So then you might go, well, I'll design it a little more triangular, and then I'll do a top bottom draw, and there won't be any undercuts. You got to design it so there's no undercuts with a 2-part mold. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah. All I'm saying is it's that whatever you're going to do, there's parameters. If you're going to be an illustrator for print, let's say, or a package designer, you have to understand dye lines, the printing process, spot colors, specialty varnishes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you got to know for any of this stuff. You're going to go into film work, all kinds of stuff you got to know, right? I mean, all kinds of stuff you got to know for film work, all kinds of stuff you got to know for product, architecture, all of it, right?
Right.
So this kind of tool for me, and I'm kind of interested in going down the rabbit hole a little bit on it. I never have. And then I'll bring that back in here.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
And okay, hang on. Irene, why did you say back?
I went to the bathroom, but I just came back.
I don't need your whole life story.
So when I was 3, no, I'm just kidding.
And then you end up the story with you going to the bathroom?
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Who did that one? Chris.
Hi.
What do you think?
It was interesting. I like playing around with the texture and then making it into like the 3D plane.
Yeah. There's something about it to me that's really fun, in that there's a little, like, you can learn how to kind of control, at least in this what we're doing right now, this sort of organic thing. You can sort of start to figure out how it kind of works, and then you can start to manipulate it, but there's always a little bit of an X factor in there, which I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I like, even with painting, I'm trying to throw things down and pull things out of it. I don't want to just overwork it or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I really like this one because I usually hate like drawing like the background, so like mountains, because I struggle with mountains a little bit, and
What's
I
your
have like
major?
this tool.
What's your
Illustration.
Okay, don't hate drawing anything, right?
Yeah, I'm working on it, but
Well, here's what I always say, and I might have said this in here for, and I think especially for painters and illustrators, really for anybody, but like, I love process. Okay. It's a reason I'm always doing sketchbook paintings, because I go in there and I just do ridiculous process in there. But I think you always need to design your process so you enjoy every part of the process. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Like, I love drawing. So if I go into a painting, I really enjoy the whole drawing process, even though it's all going to get buried in paint. But also that drawing is going to drive whether or not that's a good painting or not, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have a block-in process where I like that process. And then I have a build-up process. I like that process. So I like the whole process, Actually, the more processy, the more I like it, which is probably not. Well, I mean, if you're just doing traditional stuff, it's fine. Now, another thing I do in here is I'll come in here and however this is going to work. Hang on. I'll come in here and like break things up if I feel like I need to. Like, maybe, I don't know, I might soften like an edge. I might come in here and start to soften things a little bit here and there. I'm not going to do it everywhere, because I don't want to have the same exact kind of mark making everywhere. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like down here where it meets the ground, I can probably sort of blend those together because it's not going to be a hard edge. I mean, I know that's like a striation thing or a strata thing you got going here, which is cool. But I want to break things up a little bit here and there. Like here, this hard edge here, I'd probably break that up a little bit, break this up maybe a little. So I can really start going in and resculpting the landscape a little bit before I go in with color, yeah?
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everything, I don't know if you noticed this, but like everything like we're doing, and I think this is true just in general, it's sort of a starting point and then we manipulate it from the starting point, yeah?
Yeah.
Because what I think happens a lot is that with Photoshop, or especially with, well, whatever, Photoshop or whatever program you're using, there's a lot of tricks that I think people get hung up on. And it's like, okay, that's a good technique, but you're just doing the technique and now you need to push it into your own thing, right? But yeah, but this works really great for background stuff. Yeah?
Yeah. I'm trying I'm trying to like expand more on like drawing and like painting backgrounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so but it's taking a while because I'm really more used to like drawing like people,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, the thing I think you have to learn how to do, how long you been in Fullerton?
I just started like last fall.
Oh, good. Okay. I don't push my classes unless I think it's actually it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
But the one I always do push is my Saturday class, because I really feel like you need to have that fundamental understanding of sketching and go through the whole process of all that. Because that's what you carry into all the other classes. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like if you go into, I might have mentioned, I probably said this in here, but like you go into Brian's storyboarding class, his complaint is he goes, I get all these people in here, they don't know how to draw and they want to storyboard. And it's like, you know, you need to have a fast sketching skill set to do that. Same thing with almost anything. Okay. So in that one, we go through, we start with buildings and things like that to start understanding simple shapes and seeing simple shapes in geometry, but it's all observational. Okay. Then we go to foliage, then we go to environments, and we go to putting people into it, or drawing people, sketching people on location from life very quickly, and then into stylization, and then into styling everything, and you know, vignettes and scenes and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it's good for like learning things like editing. I mean, you're learning everything if you're in your sketchbook all the time drawing observationally. You're learning everything. You're learning editing, staging, composition, design, stylization if you're doing that, populating a scene, like so on and so forth. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you have to have that fundamental skill. Like, are you in a sketchbook a lot?
No, not much, but I do just doodle on my like tablet.
Okay. Get a sketchbook.
Well, yeah, I do. I just like I can't go outside that much and like just doodle.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, right? Are you talking
Yeah.
about the pandemic?
Yeah.
Like it hasn't really, I mean, it slowed me down a little bit on people drawing, even though I find places. I mean, I've sat in my car and drawn people, you know, where I go, oh, there's a bunch of people over there, sit in my car and I draw. But also I go out, like wherever you guys are at, go find a canyon, go find some place like that and go draw there, you know?
Yeah. I did kind of expand on like background drawing and like sketching really fast because I did like an animatic for myself just out of fun. And it was really cool.
Yeah. Most of the time, like in a work situation, I mean, it depends on what you're doing, but like
Yeah.
a lot of your language is sketching. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? I mean, at least the way I worked and everything. If I sat down with somebody, we started having a conversation, I'd always have a clipboard and a pen, and I'd sit there and start drawing. Then they have an opinion, I'd flip it around and go, well, draw it over mine. And then they draw it over that, and we'd work things out. That was our language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're doing storyboards or anything like that, you know, you got to have that kind of fluid language. It doesn't work as well if I always say you can hire a drawer, or you can hire a sketcher. And and I made the mistake of hiring a drawer where you come back and they're sitting there drawing their second drawing, they're not sketching. And then it's like, that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they need a lot of reference all the time. And then there's a place for reference. I get it. But it's like, sometimes they just need reference too much. And it's like, this slows down your process too much. It's like, I just need what the city kind of looks like. Just give me some sketches. You know, I don't need all this like overthinking, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Cindy's not here. She had Irene,
Hello.
what do you think?
It was a lot of fun. Like, I was going through all the different colors of like just the grayscale, but it was interesting to see how like white will make it a lot taller than if you do like
Yeah.
a subtle gray.
Well, that's it. It's black recedes and light values come forward.
Yeah. So when I was playing with it, just seeing the difference was a lot of fun. But
Like-
yeah, I want to do like trees and stuff.
A lot of the time we'll do I'll do just a straight up city thing where I just do a lot of square geometry and then stair step it and all that stuff, and then it gives you a cityscape, bam, instantly, right?
Oh, I didn't even think of stairs. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Where you can stair step it.
Yeah, that's really cool actually.
And then you can just stair step it up. And you know what I do is I just go, everything's more or less, you know, square-ish, or like this, like you did here, where it's more of a whatever that's called. What's that called again?
Octagon?
Octagon. You know, that kind of stuff. And but if you put a lot of them in there and then you pop them up, boom, you got a cityscape instantly.
Yeah,
then-
that's so cool.
And also I do things on the top. Hang on.
Mike, I have bad news.
What?
The internship said no.
Look, man, that's the kind of thing you just got to put it out there.
Right? Like take every
That's-
chance you can get.
Yeah. I mean, I would look, man, I can't even tell you how many jobs I haven't gotten that I wanted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And but the point is you got to get out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. If you're not putting yourself out there, and I mean, it's just is what it is, you know.
But now I get to go to Atlanta
For what?
and draw there. So
What's in
new
Atlanta?
opportunity.
Huh?
My friend's moving back from Atlanta to California. So I'm gonna fly there and then drive back with her.
Oh, that's
But
super fun.
yeah. So I told her I wanted to stay like a week at her place before we started moving.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna like go around, and I kind of also want to drive over to oh my gosh, great, is it Graceland with Elvis Presley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
That's in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, so I was thinking about doing like a small trip over. I heard it's not that far, like a 3 or 4 hour trip.
Yeah, I would do it.
Exactly.
That way you
So
can see how bad Elvis's taste was.
I'm excited for that actually.
I know. It's a trippy place, man. I've never been there, but I've just seen pictures of it, and you're like, man, he was a weird dude.
I mean, you know, when you got money, people get kind
Yeah,
of weird.
he was like an old school kind of weird. Like he was, you know, kind of a hillbilly a little bit. And he got sort of crazy famous, and he was like one of the first people to get just psycho crazy famous. You know what I mean?
So he's basically Trump.
Actually, I think Trump is worse because there's a lot of venom behind his ignorance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's really angry and all that kind of stuff. That's a little different. For me. I don't know if Elvis was all angry or anything.
No, but I just meant like the pedigree.
Well, it's sort of like, you know, I just saw a really interesting. Anyway, if you go back and you look at pictures of him from like even now or the 80s or whatever, he just has such bad taste. It's one of the things I find really offensive about him is how bad his taste is. All right, so this one I made a little more nonsense on it. Yeah, my lighting's all screwed up again. Damn it. I've really got to figure out that problem. Hang on. It seems like if I quit out of here, it usually works. I might even, if I find some stuff as I start to research this thing, I'll probably link them. So if you see links about this, that's what it is. All right, so it seems like if I quit out, but see how you could, now if I made these a little thinner, let's see if I can. The one thing I don't like about this tool, sometimes it's hard for me to get to the one I want to get to. So I could extrude it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going back to that weird lighting thing. What I noticed is what's going on is the lighting's backwards. That's what the program's doing. So if I flip it, sometimes I can, there we go. You know, so if I put a little bit of texture or a little bit of extruded detail on these, I could create what looks like a complex city that isn't, right?
Yeah.
So if I made it all just geometry, it's going to look like that. And then you put a lot of geometry together, and then I come back in and paint a little over it and maybe add a few things. And I could even recess this top so it looks like the, so if I did this top and then I put a little darker value around it, it's going to recess down and look like it's got a lip on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you could get super fast at doing things like organic environments and even these kind of complex. And then what I could do is towards the, you know, when I'm building that, I can put all that in there, and then back here I can do that loose brush work, and then it's going to extrude where it looks like I got a mountain range behind it and a cityscape in the foreground, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's basically how I use this thing. But again, you can probably go completely down the rabbit hole on it. All right, so no questions, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
And then remember, those edges matter. You know, if you notice, it does certain things with different types of brush edges and things, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then get used to, you know, like I've gotten where I go, okay, I want to put a cliff edge, like a sheer cliff edge right there. I know how to get that. This is going to be a soft roll. And also, again, if you just do like like the one I used to do the demo, this one you can see right here. If I pull that all down, pull the extrusion down, it'll get a soft rolling. It'll look like a desert. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's neat.
Like just by taking that vertical extrusion and pulling it down, it just sort of softens everything, and it just, boom, it looks like a desert.
Neat.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Who did that? Is Jessica here?
Hello.
That looks cool.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
It looks underwater.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going for.
Yeah, that's cool, man. You know what else you could do is you could like, and then you can start tweaking it and fiddling around. Well, like in this, I could come in here and just like start to paint in some little sort of corally shapes and things like that, right?
Yeah, I was using the 3D tool, and I was starting to make like an anemone. You know how they're kind of just like, they're just deep valleys. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where it's like a bunch of random shapes.
Yeah.
The only thing I was trying to figure out is like, it was too uniform, like the color. So I got the shape right, but the color was just like green. And I was like, oh, I need to figure out how to get like texture in here.
I'm gonna come back to this tool a little bit because you guys are, doing some interesting things. But I'll come back to it and I'll probably add a little to it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But and I love this back here, how it's like fading back here.
Yeah, it's a huge patchwork, honestly.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But did you so you just reduce the value and stuff back here?
It took a lot of tinkering to make it not look like it was just like invisible. So it was that and
That's
then
great.
like really like building up my erasing, like so it doesn't look too blunt, like I just like chopped a piece off. But
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And it looks great. That looks great.
Thank you.
And now you could get some of that. I mean, you're already doing it. If you have this much light, you might get some of the particle light.
Okay. Particle light as in like just like particles suspended in water?
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff in this environment. Let me see if I can find one. What's your major?
Illustration.
Oh, okay, cool. It's this kind of stuff. See the little particles, how they get lit?
Yeah, I can see that.
We're like here. Because you're getting like from that up above the surface thing. You know what's interesting about that? The reason I mentioned that, I think actually if you watch the documentary on the Make It Finding Nemo, I think they talk quite a bit about that problem that they had to solve. I think it was particle stuff.
Oh, interesting.
And the murkiness and how the light reacts in the water. I mean, before they can start those kind of movies, they got to solve all those problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they got their own R&D team and all that stuff from a software perspective and all that. But it's little things that you notice that you catalog. I probably talked about this before, but like when I was working on the California Venture thing, somebody had a rendering, I could probably find online. Somebody had a rendering where they had two spotlights. They used to do spotlights at like shopping center openings and stuff like that. And they just sweep through the sky, or car dealerships. I think it's illegal now. But that light on that spotlight is so intense that if you get down closer to it, it lights all the particles in the air, all the dust and everything down towards the lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I remember whoever did that rendering popped that stuff in there, and I go, man, that's what makes that person a badass. Like those little things, they all add up to this really interesting knowledge of light and how all this stuff works. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And it's always stuck in my brain. It wasn't just that effect. It was just like noticing things like that. You know what I mean? Just noticing little things like that push it up a level, right?
Yeah.
But this looks cool.
Thank you.
Again, I'm just bouncing through these. Who's this?
That's mine. That's from my other project. I was hoping to go talk about it with you after class.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. What's this for?
This is student housing at Fullerton College.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that project. Have you ever been over to the one they have at Art Center? Kind of reminds me of that.
Student housing?
No, they have this like they built this like loungy
No, I
thing.
haven't.
It's like tripped out. It's kind of tripped out, weird, but it's cool. It's just like sort of for students to go hang out, because like when you're at Art Center, you kind of live there. So, we didn't have anywhere to go really when I was there. So you'd sleep in the library or wherever, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Okay, who was, yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. Oops. Who's this? Kayla.
Hello.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had fun. I painted a lot into it.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, what I want you to always think about is the bigger picture. What are we doing here? Everything we're doing is an accumulation of, we're learning the software or whatever, but it's not about that. It's about what do you do with it? How do you put it together, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like anybody to have step-by-step thinking. It's like, oh, here's step-by-step how I do this. It's like, no, here's how you use this tool. And now you can use this and this and this and all the other things you're going to learn, right?
Yeah.
But this looks great.
Thank you.
Hey, professor.
Yeah.
I had trouble with the assignment. I couldn't create the terrain, like the first part of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do it.
Well, it's going to be, I mean, the main thing, and let me quit out of here and make sure it doesn't light it all weird again. I'll figure out that bug fix. I'm still having a hard time finding it. Okay, you got to have, you got to figure out your lights and darks. That part makes sense, yeah?
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay, so my darks are going to recede, my lights are going to come forward. But the process of this is just 3D or a new mesh from layer, depth map to plane. In this case, we're going to do plane.
Okay.
And it's just it's gonna take this geometry and it's gonna create a depth map.
How did you get that initial like the dark and light thing?
That I started with?
Yeah, yeah.
I just made it with a brush.
Oh, okay, got it.
But that part makes sense, right? How we just
Yeah,
did that?
yeah.
And then once we get it here, then we can grab this and we can start lighting it better. For some reason, it's not letting me do that. Come on, there we go. So then I can light it. And I'm noticing it seems like if I do have that lighting problem, if I quit out of the program and restart it, it seems to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I want to move it around, I just move it around. And then again, if it's floating and it's not on the ground plane, wherever it is in here, move object to ground plane. It's already on the ground plane, I think.
Professor, how
Yeah.
do you like pull it from the middle, like stretch it?
Oh, you go here and I get this. And then this little box right there is what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And I can pull it up in any direction. Is that what you're asking?
No, because I know that part, it stretches it up, but like if you want to pull it from a specific area, can you do that?
I don't know if you can do that. I'll find all that stuff out. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and find out how far we can go with this.
Okay, because that's where I was kind of stuck. I kind of wanted to pull things up like far from each other, and
Well, you
Yeah.
can pull them this way.
yeah.
Or this way. Hang on. Oops. See, this is where it gets tricky, is it's hard for me sometimes to grab that tool. Hang on. You can see now I dropped it down. It feels like a much smoother environment, right?
Yeah.
Hang on. Oops. And I can also move it this way. I mean, I can move it any of these directions. I can pull it out. So I can go this way, or this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was doing that. I was just wondering if there's like a way I could.
You're saying like, can I come to this hill right here and just extrude that up further, right?
Yeah, just like that part.
Let me check into that. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
But even this is a nice, like if I pull this out, let me turn it, see if I can turn it. And it might make it a little easier. Hang on. For now, let's try this. Because it doesn't really matter what angle I'm at right now. I just want to get a hold of this tool here. And I could widen it out. you know, and then I can flatten it back out and I'll have my plane back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or it'll eat up more of the space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I just have to get it back. I wonder if I can do it from here. Let's see if we can do it from here. Nah, it doesn't do it. So I just have to rotate it back, okay? And actually, you can probably reset it back. I just don't do it that way. Oh, hey, Tang, does that answer that?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm doing here is I'm making an abstract painting based on what I want to recede and what I want to come forward. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Professor, I think the ship one is mine.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll
I'll go,
resubmit it with the correct name.
okay. If the ship one's you, then I know it's you now and I'll go back and grade it.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
Make sure you always put your name on there.
Okay.
Have you graded all of those yet?
I think so.
Do you remember what it's under?
It's under it should be under grades.
No, like the name of the
It's
assignment.
called Grisaille painting.
Oh, okay. I think I did see that one.
I think you submitted. I think I remember.
Yeah, I did. I just was wondering if what was it under?
Yeah, it was under Grisaille painting. The reason I called that is because that's what it is, right? It's using a
Yeah.
gray value painting and then you glaze color over it, right?
Right.
And the reason I don't call it something digital sounding is because it comes from I don't know, centuries old thing. And I think it's important to know that because then if you go in to take oil painting and they mention Grisaille painting, you go, oh, I know what that is, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Because that's where it comes from is oil painting. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? That's a nice one. That's Taylor's. Okay, that's Jessica's. Okay. All right. Okay, so nobody has any more questions on it, right?
Did you get mine? I'm sorry,
Who is it?
Samantha.
What, you want me to look at it?
Or I just want to know if you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool.
It's, oops. Hang on. That one, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you keep these things in perspective.
Okay.
And then again, what you can do with like the roof, let's see if I still have that one I just made. Let's do this just so I can, yeah, here it is. Let's take this now and go, I'm going to take this. That's weird. Why is it doing that? God damn it. Five. There we go. Then I'm going to go, this is probably going to be sloppy, but select, modify, contract. I'm going to put 5 pixels, see what that looks like. So this is going to be sloppy, but it's okay. And then I'm going to go pick this value and probably go a little darker. Oops. Yeah. And then let's go. I'm going to quit out of here again because I'm afraid the lighting's going to screw up. And go 3D, new mesh from layer, depth map 2, plane. And see how I get that recessed top now?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you added it before you turned it into 3D.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
I
you-
did it.
Again, I
for-
shouldn't say you have to because I haven't dug down in this tool enough. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can
Yeah.
adjust just that thing. But then if I take this Come on.
That looks really cool. Yeah, I added the platforms after the fact.
Yeah, it's
That's
like if I
funny.
do it this way, God, this thing's getting fussy today. Well, I'm going the other way. So this is the only part that bugs me is I have a hard time getting that vertical extrusion. Which I think it's the blue one, I think. I don't want that. And you see there, it's going to rotate around this axis, rotate around that. And I actually want it. So let's take this one. I'm just going to do this. God damn it, man. This thing is really not cooperating. There it goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You know, and then depending on how I light it, you know, I could light that up a little bit. And then if I go to see how deep it went, that means if I want it to not be so deep, I mean, if I was doing a castle, that would look cool. If I want it not so deep, then I just go to a lighter value, a little closer to the original value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And again, the lighting's starting to do something screwy.
Yeah, I think it would have made a difference if I did it before I turned it into.
Yeah,
3D.
and the thing that's interesting about it is when you're doing this, I mean, I can do that super fast. I can build a city with this tool in about 15 minutes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so let's look at this very simple tool. And again, I will give you some links that you can go to if you want to go further with it. So I grabbed Irene's thing here. Yeah.
Go for it.
Maybe I will.
Get it. I'm excited to see what you do with it.
This is just real simple. But it can be very complex if you want to go down the rabbit hole with it. Okay, so the concept is gradient mapping, okay?
Yay! This is what I wanted to know.
Really?
Yeah, I asked you in the beginning. I was like, are you going to do gradient mapping? And you're like, how do you know about that? And I was like, I just saw it on YouTube and I was curious.
Okay, here, so you go image adjustments and down to gradient map. You're going to get this. Okay. Now, what it's doing here, that's weird. It's not giving me my color. That's weird. I'm going to check something here. Hang on. So I'm going to go here. I think that's why. So I'm going to go to this. Because they've changed this a little bit. So I have to refigure it out again. Usually gives me a color right off. What it's doing is it's going to map based on your gradient zones. So the simple way to look at this is I'm now assigning this color to this darker value, and I'm assigning, and let's change this. And I'm going to go lighter on the light end. And I can start adjusting all this stuff from here. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a little better. And then if I pull in the darks, if you notice, it's pushing the darks further, and I can do the same thing with the light. So I can push these values away from each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to do like different, like let's say you wanted to change the colors of the buildings, you would have to do two different
Well, you could do
layers?
this. You can come in here now and add another one and start assigning this somewhere on this value scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you can get these really complex. Now, the reason I'm just showing you this basic idea of it is because, again, I found some really good tutorials on this that I think that explain this pretty well. Because usually I make my own tutorials, but sometimes I find really good ones. And if it's just for a tool, I think it's fine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I have one that's really good. I'll try and find that one.
Yes, please.
And I found actually some really interesting things. Because if I go down the rabbit hole of that in this class, we're going to spend 3 weeks on this one tool, and I don't want to do that. I don't think we need to do that. I think you need to understand the basic premise of it, which is it's mapping colors to values. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in here, see what happens if I pull this up a little bit. Now I get that. So I want to go maybe in between, maybe there. Now this is getting blown out, so I don't like that. So let's go a little more. I want to get a little more color in that light. There, that's better. And as I pull it up, it's lightening that value. As I pull this out, it's going a little darker. Now look at how it's affecting that left side, the darker values. You see how it's picking up the darker values? You see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now we've got this one. It's sort of approaching the mid value area. So I can pull that up. But when I go to this really dark one, it attacks mostly just these really dark shadows or dark values. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I go, that's too much, then I'm going to pull this out a little bit. It's going to go a little more to the, then I can keep going with this with different colors and all sorts of things. It's kind of interesting. But that's the basic premise of it. It is mapping color to value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, Irene?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Now, go ahead.
oh no, I was just asking my previous question. So let's say I wanted to color the back building totally different. I'd have to do it on a separate layer. Is that right?
Okay, I've seen people who do this in a very complex way. Watch the videos. I'm going to send you on it because I think it answers all that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, and what I did is I found a range of things. Like there's one, it's very similar to what we do with the ship painting. It's sort of similar to that type of idea, except that, you know, he used it to do a very simple. Oh, the other thing that's really good for this is if you have a page of these, like let's say you got a page of sort of valued out thumbnails and stuff, you can apply this idea to them overall very quickly, and then maybe do another one where it's like, here's sunset, here's late afternoon, here's this, here's that, very quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool.
So we'll come back in and have another discussion around it after you kind of look at it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I
sounds
don't
good.
tend to use it as much. I would use it for something like this, probably like a very quick temperature idea, color idea. But so what? That doesn't mean anything. You might look at it and go, God, that's exactly how I like to work. That's great. You know, so you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I tend to go in and just, my brain just always tends to go in and go, boom, just start painting. It's just because that's where I come from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I think these things are very valuable. Okay. I think they're really valuable because when you go into a design environment, whatever that is, it's fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have to go quick.
Okay. So we understand this basic idea of this thing. Yes.
Yes.
And again, I will put these up like right after class. I'll try and find them right after class. It'll be up probably before this video is up. What you got to remember, obviously, is that you go to image adjustments and then gradient map, and that gets you to that window, right? Then you click on the little bar and it's going to give you options to add color or to put color and all that sort of thing. Now, what I did is I switched my gradient tool to the black and white tool because I think it picks up the information for how it's doing this from your gradient tool. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, because it looked like the way it was faded out before When I went up to my gradient tool, it's like, oh, it's going color to 0, right? And then when I switch it to black to white, it seems to change, fix that equation, right? So it seems to me that the gradient, your gradient tool is connected to this idea of the gradient mapping tool, which makes sense, right? And let me try one more thing here. Because it used to be you could just easily, hang on. That's what I want. Come on. There we go. I'm going to try something here. Let's go to. I'm just curious if it'll sign this. No, it doesn't. See, that's what's weird to me is it's not. You used to be able to just assign these to this. Let's try something here. See, I should be able to, you used to be able to just assign this to this, and it seems like it's not as easy anymore. So I'll have to figure that out too. Because it used to be able, you could just apply all these standard overlays and it just would pop them right over it. So I'll check into that. I think they just changed it. So we understand this gradient mapping thing, yes?
Yes.
And wait till and I'll try to do it right after this meeting. I'll throw up a couple of videos that go more in depth on this. I'm going to try and stair step them where this one's pretty simple. This one's a little blah, 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 right?
Did you want us to just find like a black and white picture and
Something
then
with something with a full value range.
Okay.
Or, you know, like we used yours. That was fine.
Okay.
You just use that. If you have something you already have that has value in it, use that. I just want you to, again, I just want you to play with this. I'm not going to make it an assignment. I just want to introduce you to this tool. I don't want to rabbit hole down on it because we'll spend too much time on it. And it's once you know the basic idea of it and you look at what people are doing with it, you can go, oh, okay. And you'll kind of get, I think you'll get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I have 2 things like that. I'll probably go over the next one next week, which is also a really useful process. Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm gonna let you go. We'll talk about this on Monday. So just play around with it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
And I, like I said, I'll put up some videos right now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Jordan, you hanging around?
He just left, I think.
Oh, shit.
Oh no.
Oh.
I guess I talked his ear off. I'll hang out for a second. I'm just going to close this off, see if he comes back. Or I'll send him an email. I'll send him an email, actually. Okay, guys. I'll see you on Monday.
All right,
Bye.
bye.